In late 1985, the flame of public desire for a successful, assertive action against terrorism was especially intense in the wake of President Carter's colossal failure in 1980 to rescue the American embassy hostages seized by student demonstrators in Iran. The following Reagan administration, despite covert CIA searches, had been frustrated in its attempts to find American hostages held in the 1982 Lebanon crisis, nor had they any decisive action in the recent TWA hijacking. While I was dressing for my civilian job in October of 1985, monitoring the Today Show, I became riveted to an unfolding story of an operation by the Navy to capture terrorists responsible for hijacking the Italian cruise ship Achille Lauro. During the hijacking, they singled out and murdered a wheelchair-bound American passenger, Leon Klinghoffer, who they then threw over the side of the ship. Learning of the capture, I shared the ebullience of the commuters in Grand Central Station who were commenting on the news to the Today Show camera crew. Augmenting my memory by referencing Wikipedia for details, I read that the carrier Saratoga had launched 4 F-14 Tomcats, 2 from the VF-74 Bedevlers and 2 from VF-103 Sluggers, also an E-2 Hawkeye from VAW-125 Tiger Tails, 2 A-6 Intruders from VA-85 Black Falcons, and an EA-6B Prowler from VAQ-137 Rooks. They were launched in a flight operation planned on board the Saratoga by Robert Bubba Brodsky. Before launching, the Tomcats had heavier, sophisticated missiles removed and replaced by simpler and lighter weapons, including tracer bullets for their nose-mounted Gatling guns. Israeli intelligence agents reported the hijackers had boarded an Egyptair 737, Flight 2843. This information was relayed to the E-2 crew before launch. Ralph Zia, directing intercept operations aboard the Hawkeye, monitored commercial airways. He and his crew tracked contacts flying west out of Egypt. Tomcats were lights out as they were vectored to suspect contacts for a visual ID. Steve Weatherspoon, aboard one of the Tomcats, described the nighttime intercepts as not overly difficult. Quote, "It wasn't a big deal. We got a good radar picture that allowed us to safely control the intercept. We were able to make out a silhouette by starlight. If similar to a 737, we'd get closer to see specific markings," end quote. After about 8 intercepts, Weatherspoon and the other Tomcat, piloted by William Skid Row Massey, were vectored to a contact that Massey ID'd as a 737. His Rio, Dennis Doc Ploutz, was able to make out the tail and bureau number by flashlight from about 15 feet. Relaying this to the Saratoga flight operations, a confirmation that this was the correct plane had been established at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Still unaware of the darkened Tomcats off his wing, the Egypt Air captain requested landing clearance at Tunis and then Athens. Both requests were denied. Ralph Zia and the Hawkeye vectored additional Tomcats to rendezvous with the Egypt aircraft. Zia then directed Egypt Air by UHF radio to land at Sigonella, Italy, a military-civilian joint use airfield. When the captain refused to comply, Zia directed the Tomcats, "Lights on now." The Egypt Air captain suddenly realized he was surrounded by warplanes. The Egyptian pilot later reported that the American fighters had ordered him to comply with the instructions to land at Sigonella or be shot down. He also stated that the military jets were in such close proximity that he requested that they give him more room to safely maneuver, after which he complied by touching down at Sigonella at 6:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. As an aside, Wikipedia reports that the Italians had scrambled 2 F-104 starfighters that were soon joined by 2 more. In response, additional Tomcats were vectored in to intercept the Italian F-104s, who soon discovered that their radars were inoperative, being jammed by the EA-6B Prowler. An amused National Security Council staffer in the White House Situation Room at the time later recalled pilots on board the U.S. and Italian jets exchanged colorful epithets over the radio about their respective intentions, family heritage, and sexual preferences, probably in English. I was charged up by this event as real-time details became available daily. Having dabbled in soft goods trade as a side hustle, I put pencil to paper and came up with a t-shirt design I called the 10-10-85. Later, most folks referred to it as the Anytime Mr. President shirt. Roy Olson, manager of the Oceana Oak Club, was my first target, and I quickly obtained a sample long-sleeve cotton t-shirt and had my artwork professionally rendered by the folks at nearby Tidewater Emblems. October 10th was a Thursday, and by Friday of the following week, I delivered the first gross of shirts to the Oak Club at Oceana. Following that, as I looked back through my files, I got orders from the Saratoga and the Miramar, California Oak Club. You can't make this stuff up. Lastly, there was the Gulf of Sidra line of death incident. Yeah, I cashed in on that one too, but it was no way as big as the 10-10-85 shirt.